The art of war. The art of war begins not on the battlefield but in the mind, in the quiet space where decisions form before a single step is taken. For more than 2,000 years, Sun Tzu's teachings have guided emperors, generals, politicians, business leaders, and ordinary people because they touch the deepest truths about human behavior. This is not a book about violence. It is a book about clarity, awareness, and understanding. Sun Tzu recognized that warfare is simply a magnified reflection of human life, full of uncertainty, conflict, ambition, fear, opportunity, and change. Every day, every person faces a form of war. The war against excuses, the war against time, the war against insecurity, the war against competition, and the war against human emotion. Sun Tzu teaches that the greatest victories begin long before the first movement and long before the first confrontation. Victory is created in preparation, in perception, and in understanding. As we move into this extended journey, we explore the book chapter by chapter, principle by principle, absorbing the profound wisdom hidden beneath Sun Tzu's ancient lines, and discovering how these truths apply to every aspect of modern life. Sun Tzu begins with the idea of laying plans. He describes 5 elements: moral law, heaven, earth, the commander, and method, not as rigid rules but as living principles that determine whether one enters a conflict with clarity or confusion. He explains that moral law is the bond of unity, the shared purpose that makes people move as one. In modern life, this is alignment with your goals, your team, your relationships, your values. Heaven speaks of timing and cycles. Life moves in seasons, and those who ignore timing sabotage themselves. Earth is the environment, the terrain, the conditions of the battlefield. In life, it is your industry, your emotional climate, your financial situation, your surroundings. The commander is the individual, the leader whose qualities shape the fate of others. Wisdom, sincerity, discipline, and courage determine not just decisions, but outcomes. And method represents structure and organization, the systems that turn vision into reality. Sun Tzu's message is that success belongs not to the strongest, but to the most prepared, the most aware, and the most aligned. He then moves into the cost of prolonged conflict. Sun Tzu warns that a war that lasts too long drains resources, destroys morale, and weakens the nation. In modern life, prolonged conflict appears as arguments that never end, jobs that drain your soul, goals pursued without strategy, conflicts carried inside the heart for months or years. Sun Tzu teaches that endurance is valuable, but dragging a battle beyond its necessary length is a silent destroyer. He advises decisiveness. End conflict quickly when possible, conserve your emotional energy, and avoid battles that prolong suffering. He explains that leaders must understand morale, because exhausted soldiers do not fight well and exhausted minds do not think clearly. Efficiency is not simply a preference. It is essential for survival. Victory requires not just strength, but sustainability. Sun Tzu's 3rd chapter teaches the brilliance of indirect victory. He states that the highest form of warfare is to subdue the enemy without fighting. In modern contexts, this means avoiding unnecessary conflict, solving problems before they escalate, influencing others through understanding instead of confrontation, and positioning yourself so effectively that resistance dissolves naturally. He explains that direct attack should be the last option. A better path is to dismantle the enemy's strategy, to understand their motives, to weaken their alliances, to break their confidence, and to shape their expectations. This chapter contains Sun Tzu's most famous principle. Knowing yourself and knowing the enemy guarantees victory. Self-awareness and awareness of others form the twin pillars of strategic power. Ignorance of either invites disaster. He then speaks about tactical dispositions. Sun Tzu teaches that the wise do not seek victory in the middle of battle. They secure victory before the battle begins. A general must first make himself invincible through preparation, discipline, and positioning, then wait patiently for the moment when the enemy exposes a weakness. Victory is not a single event but the result of careful accumulation. Sun Tzu teaches that true mastery appears effortless because the hard work is invisible. The person who wins comfortably has prepared deeply. The one who wins loudly often wins by accident. He reminds us that defense is essential for survival, but offense is necessary for opportunity. A wise strategist balances both. The fifth chapter explores energy, not just physical energy, but emotional, strategic, and psychological energy. Sun Tzu describes the interplay between direct and indirect strategies, explaining that while there are only two fundamental types of action, their combinations are infinite. He compares strategy to music and color. A few basic notes create endless melodies. A few colors blend into countless shades. Momentum, timing, and rhythm determine the power of action. A small push at the right moment creates enormous results. A large push at the wrong moment wastes energy. Sun Tzu teaches that chaos can conceal order, and simplicity can conceal brilliance. The wise hide strength behind patience and strike with precision when the moment is right. Sun Tzu's sixth chapter discusses weak points and strong points. He explains that the enemy's strength is often concentrated where they expect attack, while their weaknesses lie where they feel secure. The key is to remain unpredictable. When you make yourself invisible, when your plans, emotions, intentions, and abilities remain unknown, the enemy cannot prepare. When you reveal too much, you give away control. Sun Tzu teaches that victory belongs to the one who dictates the battlefield, the one who forces others to react instead of acting on their own terms. The strategist who controls perception controls reality. Sun Tzu then transitions into the complexities of maneuvering. Movement requires careful management of morale, communication, coordination, and timing. An army can collapse simply by marching too quickly, too slowly, or without clear purpose. Sun Tzu teaches that movement in life, whether toward a dream, a relationship, a career, or a risk, requires balance. Move too quickly and you stumble into chaos. Move too slowly and opportunity passes. True skill lies in adjusting your pace to the demands of the moment. He emphasizes that exhaustion destroys strength, and leaders must preserve the energy of their people. Pressure without purpose fractures the spirit. His next chapter focuses on variation in tactics. Sun Tzu warns against rigid thinking. No strategy works in every situation. The general who repeats past victories without understanding why they worked invites defeat. Flexibility is the soul of strategy. The environment changes, people change, and circumstances evolve. Those who adapt survive. Those who resist change perish. Sun Tzu explains that stubbornness is not strength, it is blindness. He teaches that a wise leader observes, adjusts, and evolves constantly. Victory belongs to the flexible. Sun Tzu then teaches how to read signs when the army is on the march. He explains that the environment speaks in subtle clues: dust patterns, bird movement, sudden silence, sudden noise. In modern life, these signs become changes in behavior, tone of voice, timing, silence, hesitation, eye contact, patterns of communication, shifts in momentum. Sun Tzu teaches that the world always speaks, the wise listen. People reveal their intentions even when they try to hide them. A competitor preparing to strike, a partner losing interest, a team losing morale, a friend in distress. All reveal themselves through subtle signals. Reading these signs is a form of intelligence as essential as any weapon. He then discusses terrain. Every environment creates opportunities and dangers. A strategy that works in one terrain may fail entirely in another. Sun Tzu describes terrain types and explains how to move, defend, or attack based on the structure of the land. In modern life, terrain is the context of your decisions. Your industry, your financial situation, your emotional stability, your relationships, your health, your resources. Sun Tzu's lesson is simple. Do not force a strategy upon a terrain that cannot support it. Instead, shape your approach to match your environment. The 11th chapter, The 9 Situations, is Sun Tzu's deepest exploration of human behavior. He describes 9 states of battle, from easy ground to desperate ground, and explains how humans behave in each. People are careless when the stakes are low. They argue when rewards are high. They become tense when far from home. They become cautious in danger. They become unstoppable when survival is at stake. Sun Tzu teaches that a leader must understand psychology as deeply as strategy. When people have nothing to lose, they fight with extraordinary strength. When they feel trapped, they panic unless guided with clarity. When they feel safe, they become careless. Understanding human nature is essential to guiding people toward victory. Sun Tzu's 12th chapter discusses fire, the use of natural forces to multiply power. Fire represents timing, momentum, disruption, opportunity, and external energy. In modern life, fire is anything that amplifies your progress. Trends, technology, public sentiment, viral attention, economic timing, emotional shifts. Sun Tzu teaches that external forces can empower you if you understand how to use them, but they can destroy you if mishandled. Power without control burns its owner. The final chapter explores the use of spies, Sun Tzu's metaphor for intelligence, information, awareness, research, and insight. He teaches that information determines victory. The one who understands the truth of a situation, who sees beneath appearances, who gathers accurate knowledge, cannot be surprised. Ignorance is the greatest enemy. Knowledge is the greatest weapon. Sun Tzu ends with the idea that the true victory belongs not to the strongest or the loudest, but to the most aware. When we bring Sun Tzu's teaching into modern life, we find that strategy is not confined to battlefields. It appears in business decisions, relationships, negotiations, careers, personal development, emotional control, and self-discovery. Sun Tzu teaches us to understand the terrain of life, to read people accurately, to control our emotions, to avoid unnecessary conflict, to act with clear intention, and to prepare quietly before moving loudly. He shows that mastery comes from awareness. Power comes from patience. Victory comes from clarity. His message, after all the chapters, is simple. The greatest general is the one who never needs to fight. The greatest strength is calmness. The greatest shield is understanding. The greatest victory is peace. The art of war ends not with bloodshed but with wisdom, the wisdom to choose battles wisely, to move with purpose, to think with clarity, and to live with discipline. In this way, Sun Tzu's ancient teachings become a guide for the modern human being, navigating the complex battlefield of life with intelligence, grace, and unwavering self-mastery.